Hey guys, so for this video I wanted to talk about photojournalism, which is one of my favorite types of photography. So basically I'll be just touching upon like a brief history of what photojournalism was, or how it started, what photojournalism is, why it's important, what makes a good photojournalist, also the future of it, the ethics, and also like what kind of what photographers to look out for. So yeah, I hope this video kind of gives you a better understanding of what photojournalism is. So basically photojournalism started around the same time, I would say, as like street photography. Although street photography was more popular in the 1800s rather than photojournalism. Again, street photography documented like everyday life and stuff like that. But I would say, and many others would argue, that it wasn't until like maybe the 1920s or the 1930s that photojournalism actually started evolving. Again, with cameras such as like the Leica and Diana and stuff like that, people were able to bring along their cameras with them and not have to carry such heavy equipment. And then of course, publications came out such as Life that helped not only bring stories through written text but also through visuals. Which brings me to what photojournalism is. Basically, it's telling a story through pictures, basically, whether it's just one picture or maybe a series of photos. It's always trying to tell a story of what is going on at that moment, at that time, and with that person or subject. And I would say it's really important because yeah, there's obviously text that tells you what is going on, and there's newspapers and stuff like that. There's obviously video, but there's something about a photo that has a different perspective on things. You could catch everything at a different angle. You can grab those details that video can't sometimes, or that text can describe as well. So just being able to see it photographically definitely makes a huge impact on the story. So one of the biggest discussions about photojournalism is the ethics of it. I had taken a journalism class about Chicago Tribune in particular in college, and basically we talked about the early forms of journalism, and when people were starting to put pictures in their stories, it was very unethical. Sometimes, like for example, if a person would pass away, they would often steal photos from their homes or their funerals or anything like that. So definitely photojournalism has had a bad history at times. But basically, and many times pictures have been faked. Photojournalism should really be more about what you see in that moment and change nothing about it. So one of the biggest problems is covering the dead. Basically, a lot of people don't know if it's ethical to do so, if there is a problem with photographing dead people. Sometimes it is and it isn't. Like, obviously, you want to show what happened and you want to have people react to what happened and kind of try to care if they see like a dead person. But it might be disrespectful to the family if you are really getting into their privacy. For example, if you take a photo of a tragic event and it's from far away, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if you're really going into the scene and taking photos and stuff like that, that could be seen more as being disrespectful. And it also comes to mind if the public really needs to see dead people. Obviously, you have the written text to tell you how many people died, who died, why, who, why, when, where, why, and stuff like that. So it always comes to mind if like, do we really need to see an actual picture of a dead body? I personally think that it's better to respect the dead and to just let that moment be, because again, you might be putting even more stress on the families of the victims or anything like that. There's also the problem between citizen and professional photojournalism. So citizen photojournalism is kind of when if someone is just present at the event just happens to be there and pulls out their phone and basically captures that photo of like a train crash or a car crash or anything like that. So that would be citizen photojournalism. Obviously, professionals are assigned to a location, to an event, or are called up to cover a story. So the argument is that citizen photojournalists don't really know the ethics behind photojournalism. They just snap pictures and that's it. And I've seen that that's mostly to be true. Sometimes you see things on Facebook that people randomly post that you don't even know who they are, but they have pictures of like dead people, like very graphic, and just things like that you wouldn't really see in an actual like legitimate newspaper. You wouldn't see anything like that. If anything, you would see like more of an open space like shot of what happened instead of actually taking pictures of that person. So another big concern of about journalism is basically the future of it. With technology advancing so well, people basically have the power of photography in the palm of their hands with their phones, anything like that. Recently a lot of people have been, or a lot of photographers have been laid off. For example, the Chicago Sun-Times laid off most of their photographic staff, if not all. So it's really concerning as a photographer to see what kind of future photojournalism holds, especially when it's so easy to get images from just a citizen photojournalist who just happens to be there and will give you the picture, or you can obtain that picture no matter what, and not have to pay a professional photographer to actually go out there. So basically, yeah, the problem is that everyone now is a photographer, but it still doesn't make one a professional. There's still a lot of training that one has to go to if they want to become a professional photographer. There's a lot of thought that goes into assignments, into photo shoots, into every composition, anything like that. And not everybody has that mentality. They think photography is just about photographing random things or stuff like that. But when it comes to photojournalism, the professionals actually put into thought what they're going to do with their photography and such. Just because everybody has a camera or is able to have a camera now doesn't mean that they're actually a photographer. They have to think like a photographer, like a professional photographer, not just know how to work a camera. And again, print isn't really going away anytime soon because again, people just like the feeling of having printed newspapers, magazines into their own hands. And although it's very popular to have the online magazines and such, there will still be print publications. And even with online magazines, like we live now in an age where it's so easy to get your work out there, so easy to find an audience basically. So there are definitely different ways to get your stuff out there. Like Steve McCurry says, it's just a matter of, basically going with the flow of things. You can't really just have this set mentality of how it was 20 years ago. You kind of have to keep evolving as the technology and the industry keeps evolving, or else you're going to be stuck there for the most part. So it's definitely a matter of just like knowing how to work the system and knowing how to evolve along with the industry. So something also awesome that I was able to do was interview Joanne MacArthur, who is a photojournalist and an animal rights activist. I will have her link in the description box with her website and everything. But basically, I got a chance to interview her about not only about her organization, but also about photojournalism and all that. And since she does deal a lot with very traumatic scenes, I was really wondering how she basically got over those scenes and how she still is continuing to do her work. So yeah, I'll post a link to that interview in the description box. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a video interview with her, but I was able to email her. But she is definitely someone to look into her work. Her images are very striking. They're also very graphic, so there is a warning about that, but definitely check out the interview. It will definitely give you a lot of insight of what it is to be a photojournalist. And hopefully this video in general has helped you a lot in understanding photojournalism.